So thank you for joining us for our occupational wellness workshop, Managing Stress, Setting Boundaries, and Preventing Burnout in the Workplace. I'm Jennifer with MOPS, and we hope that you feel comfortable to actively participate in today's workshop and would appreciate if you keep your cameras on. Before we get started, I just wanted to provide a little information about MOPS. So we're a community nonprofit mental health agency that provides mental health services and treatment to those in our community, in addition to providing professional development opportunities for our staff and other professionals in the field. So this workshop is one of the many ones offered this month in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month. And then we are going to show you our current fundraiser. Claire, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide.
Hang on a quick second. Ooh. How's that?
I do not see it.
Great.
Oh, there we go. There we go. So currently we have our Support MOPS Be Kind to Your Mind fundraiser. We're selling these awesome t-shirts and sweatshirts that were designed by our staff. So if you feel so inclined to purchase one, you can go ahead and scan the QR code. And now I will pass it off to Claire, who will be leading today's workshop.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining today's workshop. 8 a.m. on a Monday morning following a busy weekend and a Mother's Day weekend on top of that. Kudos to all of you for being here today. So this morning we've got 30 minutes to talk about stress, which in and of itself kind of sounds funny because stress is a big topic, and we all experience stress in oh so many ways. So those of us that are working in the field have stress coming. Hang on, I'm looking to get my cursor so I can switch the slide off of the t-shirt. There. So all of us experience stress regardless of what position or job we do. Stress itself is a biological response to a perceived danger, not necessarily a real physical danger, but a perceived danger, something that is in your environment that tells you to be careful. So it's a friend in that regard. Stress is healthy if managed well, but too much stress equals mental health, emotions, and physical health problems. So just a recap, we've got physical health, which we use our doctors for. That's our biology. It's our organs. It's the way we keep ourselves physically healthy. We have mental health, which is our emotional and behavioral health. And then all of that combined brings us together into a whole person that feels good, basically. So we're talking about stress as part of us feeling good, but it's also a real key factor in destroying our health, both physical and mental health. So it's really important to be able to take time out like we're doing this morning. Even though many of us are pretty good at managing stress, especially if we're in the field itself, we teach people how to do it. If you're a parent, you probably teach your kids how to manage stress. That doesn't mean we shouldn't stop once in a while and ask ourselves, how are we doing with it and what do we need to review, so that we are forever present in looking at ourselves, evaluating our stress levels and our health, and then using stress techniques to be aware of taking care of ourselves. So what I'd like to do in this 30 minutes is just review that effective stress management is made up of three parts, and that's knowing your core values, knowing what you stand for as a person, being resilient and engaging in self-care, and setting boundaries. And if you're doing those three things, you have created a vaccination of some sort for yourself against stress. You have become stress resilient. So if you really want to be able to walk through your life and meet the challenges that come to you just based on life, then you want to be stress resilient, because you cannot plan for stress. It can come out of nowhere at any time, or it can be prolonged due to certain circumstances. But what you really need is to be stress resistant. So let's take a look at what the pieces of that are. Core values. What are our core values? Core values are like, I've got a checklist here, but I guarantee you there's about pages and pages of core values. If you Google it right now, you will find millions. So the slide here gives you a few to think about. But as you think about yourself, take a minute and write down maybe 2 or 3 of your own core values. What are the values that you think are important in your life that fuel you, that motivate you, that you carry with you? Just take a minute and come up with those. And if you don't mind, then I'm going to ask you to share what your core values are and how you see yourself or how you see them helping you. Anybody want to share one?
I can share one.
Sure.
Um, so not intentionally choosing the first one on the list, but integrity is the first one that came to mind to me. I think I let my, passion for integrity kind of fuel everything I do in life.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I can share too. So I have kindness and being open-minded. So just being minded to new ideas and other opinions of other people, um, trying to see like the positive of almost everything when I can.
Yeah. Thanks, Kelly. And it's really kind of, for those of us that know each other, when you say integrity, Jen and Kaylee say kindness, those of us that know you, that resonates immediately, right? Because you carry it with you in all your interactions, every meeting you go into, at the work you do, the one-on-ones, the casual conversations, none of that comes as a surprise. People are like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So your core values are the things that you don't really need to write down. People see them and they guide every move you make. And so they are really a very important piece of taking care of yourself, because knowing what those are allows us to kind of, in rough times, kind of step back and go, wait, I feel like killing someone right now, but I'm a kind person. So I'm going to hold back on. So we do use those values. They motivate us to behave in certain ways, but they also, they're why we do what we do all the time. So if you look at the next slide, think about where the quote, wherever you go, you take yourself with you. It isn't really about the job you're doing. We're talking about stress in the workplace, and that is a different level of stress. It can add a different level of stress. But in truth, you go everywhere you go. And you're taking those core values everywhere you go. And so whether you're parenting, whether you're in the grocery store, whether you're in the doctor's office, whether you're at work, wherever you are, those core values are who you are. And that results in your sense of purpose. And having a sense of purpose is not something you do to achieve wealth or status. It is what is at our core, validates who we are as a person, which is far greater than how much money we make or what our title is or anything like that. So I want to just reflect for a minute as we talk about core values. Like, do my actions reflect my personal values? How do I connect my actions to my purpose? What will I do to engage my awareness that I'm actively expressing my values and purpose in all things I choose to do? So one of my core values, I don't know if it's a core value, but it is in some way, I just haven't named it, is I actively go to Kroger's and make people smile if I can. So I have been doing it for years, but I don't mindlessly go into a grocery store. I don't really enjoy grocery shopping a whole lot, but I do enjoy seeing how many people, because I don't know if you've never noticed it before, people are grumpy in grocery stores. Count the people who smile going into a grocery store. And that's always been amazing to me. Like, I don't think it's that bad, but it is for me an enjoyable thing to smile at people and see if indeed I can share some sunshine with them. And that to me is a good example of who I am goes with me wherever I go. And then, does having a clear sense of purpose based on your core values, does it relate to stress management? Absolutely, it does, because it allows you to remind yourself that yes, you're in Kroger's and yes, things are rough, or you're at work and people are tired and grumpy, and there's a whole lot of reasons that we experience stress at work. But remembering that I am a kind person and that's what I am going to do today, and doing that naturally reduces some of that stress and fuels you in the opposite. Instead of emptying your fuel tank, it increases, it adds. So taking yourself with you, knowing your core values and being aware that you're doing that is really a huge part of the first piece of being stress resistant. Resilience is the ability to bounce back. Resilience says, yes, I can get knocked down. Yes, I can feel exhausted. Yes, I can be traumatized, but I have the ability to bounce back. And the way I bounce back are in skills, the way I think, the way I manage my emotions, the way I interact with other people, and the way I feel about myself. And so if you're somebody that struggles a lot with managing stress, one of the things you might want to do is ask yourself, are there areas in here that you maybe need to work on? Flexible thinking, planning, being optimistic, seeing yourself as a problem solver, or managing your emotions, or giving yourself permission for self-compassion and compassion for others. Or having support. Do you have a strong support system? Are you able to clearly communicate with people in a way that they understand what you need and what you have to offer, or to listen to what they need? Do you have empathy? Can you use humor to kind of carry you through when things are getting a little tense? And then how you feel about yourself. It's always important to go back to the core values for a minute, and then ask yourself, am I aware of my core values? Do I know when I'm using them? Do I self-regulate? Do I talk nicely to myself, or am I critical of myself? Am I more critical than I am kind to myself? Can I hear that internal talk? Do I have good boundaries that are clear and protective of me? And am I able to motivate myself to do things that are good for me? So resilience is not something you do. It is part of who you are by the way you think, feel, interact with other people, and feel about yourself. So if again you're looking to become more stress resistant, it helps to stop and step back and go, how well do I do these things here? So that's one slide that I think could be helpful to pull out and keep separate, and just ask yourself over time, how am I doing? Another component of stress resistance is self-care. Different from resilience, self-care is active. You can see people doing it. It takes planning. It's a do thing. It's a verb. Resilience is something we are by the way we think and feel. Self-care is something we do. So self-care is any activity that we planfully do to take care of our psychological, emotional, spiritual, mental, professional, and physical needs. And it is something that has to be done in a way that I can hold myself accountable for doing it. So a daily self-care check-in is not a bad thing at all. All of us know what self-care is. You can say, these are the ways I do it. I go to the gym, I eat right, I walk every day. There's certain things, I get a massage, I bathe, those are the kinds of things we do that say, I am caring for myself. So a daily self-care check-in is not a bad thing at all. Asking yourself every morning, how am I feeling? What am I grateful for? What do I need? What do I want to accomplish? And what's something I can do for myself today? And that brings us into mind, these are the things I'm actually doing. They don't all take memberships. Sometimes just going outside in the middle of the day and taking a deep breath and appreciating that it's spring and God, we had a beautiful weekend. Those kinds of things, even though the rain's back. Those kinds of things are what allows us to engage in self-care, but they're active. You can't say, I think I'll go outside and, get some air and be kind to myself for a minute and then stay in your office all day and not do it. That will not build resistance to stress. So being active, engaging in self-care is another formula for being resistant to stress. Boundaries are one that, for those of us that experience a lot of work stress, this one may be a bigger challenge for many of us. Those of us that are really good at setting boundaries, that's a gift. And many of us have to evaluate, do I need to do this better? Boundaries are a limit or a rule that we set to protect our personal space, our time, and our energy. And we don't always get permission to do that. It's not, it's all of us sitting here, when we find somebody that can be helpful to us, we'd like to take full advantage of that. And that's true whether you're at home. I can't tell you how many parents I've heard say, I got to put my kids first. That's the way it goes. My kids will always be first. Well, that's number one, not accurate. You have to put yourself first at all times if you're going to do well for your kids. And two, you do need some boundaries. You do need to be able to set some rules around you so that you have, if you look at the picture, gates protect. They're movable. You can climb over them, you can get under them, you can build a gate. But a fence is something that protects you from the other side. Sometimes you even need that from your kids. So, but at work in particular, we like to perform, we like to feel like we're at our best. And sometimes when we set boundaries, we can feel like other people feel we're being selfish or not performing up to snuff. And again, let's go back to the resilience piece, being able to understand that, evaluate your core values, know you're on the right road for yourself, allows us to live with those boundaries and do what's best for us, because that's what keeps us there. That's what allows us to stay in a job that's stressful, or to stay at the job of parenting, or whatever it is that's causing us stress. That allows resilience to pop in. So boundaries establish acceptable and unacceptable behavior from others. And again, go back to how these work together, right? In order to do that, you have to have good communication skills. You have to feel comfortable saying to somebody, please stop, or this is where I draw the line. Ensures your needs and well-being are being respected. Can be physical, emotional, or mental. Boundaries are in all domains, and boundaries play a crucial role in maintaining healthy relationships and a balanced life. So boundaries are really critical, and particularly in the workplace, they can be a challenge. So that's a great conversation to have with coworkers, team meetings, as an agency. How do we set those boundaries for ourselves? Do we give each other permission to have them? And do we ever cross them without even trying? And if so, is it okay for us to talk about that? So in summary, as we wrap up, stress is a part of life. It's a signal to pay attention and adjust your current load. If you have too much unmanaged stress, it will lead to physical, mental, social, and emotionally related challenges. Having a sense of purpose means that your core values are reflected in your actions. It's the fertilizer that feeds resiliency and self-care. Resiliency is the ability to shift your thoughts and feelings in ways that allow us to weather stress and bounce back. It softens the impact of the stressful situation and allows us to recover quickly. Self-care is the choice to engage in the regular practice of health. It's action-oriented, requires planning, and is self-directed. And then boundaries are the rules we establish and use to monitor and protect our personal space, time, and energy. So that's the summary. And just in closing, when we manage stress with purpose, resiliency, and self-care, and effective boundaries, we have become stress resistant and are better able to maintain emotional, physical, and psychological well-being. And I would say even in the face of things that pop out of nowhere that are unexpected, that take us down, loss of somebody we care about, loss of a pet, having to travel, loss of a job, those kinds of things we don't prepare for because sometimes they just happen to us. And being resilient means that not being resilient, being resistant to stress means that we feel it, we give ourselves permission to live with it and to experience it fully in whatever that looks like, but that we're able to pick back up and carry on for those around us. So that's my presentation on stress for today. If you have a minute to wrap up for yourself, think about what is your favorite core value and how do you reflect that in your life? How are you resilient? How well do you manage negative thinking? Negative thinking is a little time bomb for many, many of us because it builds over time and it moves us from optimism to pessimism. And there's a lot to think negatively about without a doubt, but a negative example is I'm never going to finish this project. A positive way of thinking about that is I can do it if I take it slow and do a bit each day. So it's not, I can't do it. Oh, yes, I'm positive I will ace this. It's realistic, but it gives you room to succeed as opposed to hearing yourself say, never, I'm never going to finish. Self-care is one thing you can do every day. What is something you do now, and what do you appreciate about yourself for doing that? And then what's one rule you use to protect your person, time, and energy? So those are things you can take away from today's little presentation and ask yourself, how am I doing these things? What can I do better? If you're doing them all, you are stress resistant. But again, even if you are, like I feel like I'm pretty good at being stress resistant, but every time I talk about it or read about it, it renews me to doing it. It builds me into an awareness mode that allows my actions to be regenerated. So, any thoughts or questions? How well do you, if you were going to rank yourself real quickly, just do it in the chat as to how stress resistant you feel you are right now today. What number would you use from 1 to 10? 1 being none, 10 being 100%. And just put it in the chat. And then something just to reflect on for the rest of the day is good job. 8. I would say that's probably true. 7s and 8s. And I like the optimism. 8.5. Good job, Vicki. Moving towards that 9. So preaching to the choir, but a good review. And thank you very much for joining in this conversation today.